Hi guys, I'm Gadi Fatazzi and I'm going to be talking about the digital transformation space today. This is my blog, gadi.online, and we shall start with this information. Let's talk about value transfer and why disengagement strategies will help to redesign your future. Let's renegotiate. Measuring what matters, Australia's first national wellbeing framework. Behaviour economics team hosted by the Prime Minister and Cabinet. Nudging for good, the ethics of behavioural science. Critics argue that behavioural interventions manipulate citizens, impose paternalisms, and do not preserve individual autonomy. Now, how are they building this ecosystem? What does that look like? Let's start with the Global Human Day. Human-centered perspective, globalized economy, but pivoting around the 17 internationally agreed upon Sustainable Development Goals. This project has been ongoing for 20 years. It looks something like this, with direct human outcomes, organizational outcomes, and external outcomes. Salesforce, who are they?
I want to thank our World Economic Forum team, especially the Center for the Fourth Industrial Revolution.
Let's start with the World Economic Forum Leadership and Governance website. Here you can scroll and read all about the organisation and its structures, its activities, and how it engages in your country. Here is Mark, the Chair and Chief Executive Officer of Salesforce, here at the World Economic Forum on the Board of Trustees. How does Salesforce do business in Australia? They use a proxy, a company called Deloitte. And here you can see the World Economic Forum is the Deloitte Strategic Partnership with WEF. And here you can see they've been participating with Davos since 2014 with their initiatives and their community engagement projects. Deloitte has taken a leadership role in advancing the World Economic Forum's objective of improving the state of the world. How does this partnership work? The Deloitte Digital Global Salesforce Alliance offers up partnerships with our Australian government. Let me demonstrate one of these partnerships on health.gov.au or the Australian Department of Health and Aged Care for their Digital Transformation Tech Talk webinars, where they have in-train digital transformation happening across that ecosystem with Salesforce. Another example is Salesforce software costing the NDIS $2 million a month. It more than doubled to $76 million before being flagged for further investigation in a review of the lobby-linked procurements. Contracts have been largely hidden from view as the NDIA does not fall under the Commonwealth procurement rules and therefore is not obliged to make public disclosure on AusTender. These partnerships, such as WEF and Deloitte, use Uplink.
Uplink was launched at Davos in 2020 by the World Economic Forum, Deloitte, and Salesforce, and its purpose is to find and scale businesses that combine purpose and profit.
Let's have a closer look at Deloitte supporting the WEF model for value transfer. You'll find the blueprints on the Deloitte website, The Future of Value Transfer. This article focuses on the 6 key dimensions: trust, identities, inclusion, responsibility, sustainability, and platforms. Here is the blueprint for Deloitte's Future of Value Transfer, supported by the WEF. Customer, Hyper personalization, and we started to see that integrated in 2020. Fragmented sovereignty, friction, leading to the empowerment of power of data ownership. Now we're up to this part of the map: the digital identity, digital attribution, crypto, payment versus delivery, and CBDCs. This leads into our current language of AI or generative AI, the cloud, our US cloud agreement, and DLT, which then transitions into analytics, the control of data access, digital profile, so your digital twin, value attribution, and value transfer versus payment delivery. Creator, control, enablement, empowerment, down to the smart contracts, cross-chain contracts, and omni-chain DEX. Linktree MG Resources. Links will be in comments or bio. Here you can scroll down and you will come across all the source documents for the WEF template for value transfer. Here is the blueprint for digital ID from the Future of Financial Services series, August 2016. It highlights other white papers and building blocks for you to read through on how they have been establishing the value transfer system since 2014. The Future of Financial Infrastructure, a blueprint for digital identity. The Prime Minister and Cabinet have finally released protected documents from February 2023 around digital ID and value transfer. The Intergovernmental Agreement seeks to enable the use of biometric matching. The agreement commits to jurisdictions to enable one-by-one biometric verification of identity with consent, then redacted. My blog then maps this information ecosystem. So I'm not a journalist, I just map information. And here you can click on the images and that will take you to the original source website. This will demonstrate everything that was said in the introduction, right down to the value transfer, and then introduce you to the language that comes through fintech, action initiation, consumer data rights, or the two-way power of attorney.
First, we're going to go through action initiation basics. What is it? What new opportunities will it unlock? And I think it's fitting to kick off this one with Scott, who's been called by some the godfather or the father of CDR. Scott, can you take us through what action initiation is?
Well, you did a pretty good job yourself there, Nick, of describing what it is. But there's probably three different ways you could describe it, depending on the kind of language that you are used to hearing. One of them is it's allowing the sharing of instructional and not just declarative information. So information that can do stuff, as opposed to information that just says the stuff that's already been done. That's obviously not the one that we would say to people who are trying to get their head around CDR the first time. If you're trying to get head around CDR the first time, it'd be, you know how the CDR is a new highway that allows you to get people to send data to other people about you? Well, this allows you to send the trucks the other way and get people to do things on your behalf using the highway. And the last one to do it, if you've got a slightly legal bent or you have some interaction with this in the real world, it's just a digital power of attorney.
I definitely recommend watching the FinTech panel to learn about consumer data rights and that two-way power of attorney. Further down through the blog, it will take you to the Freedom of Information from National Cabinet, outlining the strategic leadership group that was held on the 8th of February and the digital transformation space. If you then click on these redacted documents, it will take you to the origin and take you through what they've been discussing over the last couple of months for digital transformation. And a lot of it is redacted. The National Identity Proofing Guidelines are in train and being updated. And the government has developed a response to the Opta data breach. And this will be a mobile trust score. It's a system developed to prevent fraud, but it will allow telecommunication providers to assign trust scores to mobile phones numbers based on risk factors such as SIM swaps, tenure of phone plan, and virtual private numbers. It then goes into explore the facial recognition laws, which are currently in train, and the Australian Government Architecture website will have further information about that. In November of 2022, the Australian Communications and Media Authority held a conference in line with government, industry, analysts, researchers, and the Australian Defence. And when I asked for what had happened during that conference, I was told that that information didn't exist. But when we go and look at the RADCOM's presentations, I'll just touch on two of them. There are trajectories involving landscapes that involve Optus, BAI Communications, as well as the New Frontier. And this particular ecosystem in its development has a defense strategy which results in digital twin. And this particular company is at the forefront of this landscape as well. Thales is a leader in critical information systems, cybersecurity and data security. They link in with cloud service providers such as Amazon Web Services, Google, Microsoft, and Salesforce. Here in Australia, they announced that they were going to be acquiring Tesserent, which was one of Australia's and New Zealand's largest cybersecurity companies. And people may know Thales for their introduction to the digital ID wallet. On the 15th of December 2021, the Minister for Home Affairs, Karen Andrews, and the US Attorney General, Merrick Garland, signed an agreement between the Government of Australia and the Government of the United States of America on access to electronic data for the purpose of countering serious crime. And this is the Australian-US Cloud Act Agreement, and this is what makes this ecosystem possible. The US Cloud Agreement links to Safety by Design, and this is the eSafety Commissioner, Julie Grant, and she was placed here during the pivot to Asia.
We are watching you.
The signing of a Cloud Act agreement between Australia and the US.
This is an urgent national problem. It is growing. It is not getting smaller. And anyone following the geopolitical outlook can see, as clear as a bell, that there is a significant problem that is going to get worse.
Australia is one of the first jurisdictions in the world that's going to have access to this. The UK does as well, but Australian implementation has really been fast-tracked.
There is foreign interference in our country. It is insidious and it is relentless and it is everywhere.
Looking at behavioural signals.
We are watching you.
Behaviour is typically very different for just a regular user, and so there's a range of different signals that we can use there.
We are watching you.
Also looking at metadata and unencrypted surfaces, and in unencrypted surfaces we can use proactive content detection technologies. And
So this problem is going to get bigger, not smaller, over time.
There's additional collaboration under government structures as well. A number of the Five Eyes companies have really pioneered.
Our government strongly values integrity, openness and transparency.
I can't get any freedom of information released for the CBDCs. You and your little American mates won't let us have a look at what RADCOM's 2022 are doing, and you won't release the new M&D principles. The list goes on and on about your lack of integrity, Claire.
We see it too on social media, where foreign governments covertly try to sow division around political issues that are felt deeply within the Australian community. They are trying to deliberately deteriorate our social fabric and cause conflict and painful rifts between neighbours who have lived together peacefully for many years.
The verdict is in. Public health lied.
Have we become so subservient to the US empire?
I can't help myself. It's not professional on me.
Is it a fucking joke?
And of course, we see it in politics, where foreign governments try to win over elected leaders or party activists to push for changes in everything from planning laws to foreign and national security policy.
This is where I now demonstrate where Deloitte, so that the WEF proxy, sponsored its first Oracle Cloud App user group, hosted by Deloitte in the Melbourne office on May 12th. And this was in line with the Accenture Australia. Those videos, definitely recommend them to watch. And the Deloitte Citizen Connect platform, which links back to the future of value transfer. Now, they reckon they had an issue in Canberra and decided they wanted a sovereign approach. So they started up Vault Cloud. Vault Cloud signed up straight away to this organization here, which just happens to partner with all of these particular partnerships, which link back to WEF.
Utilities are facing disruption at unprecedented rates. Ongoing regulatory pressure, rapidly advancing technologies, and evolving digitally connected customers. With huge volumes of data at their fingertips, how can utilities unlock powerful analytics insights? Through our partnerships, we harness the power of the most reliable, secure, and innovative cloud provider, Amazon Web Services, and the premier customer experience platform, Salesforce, delivering reduced costs and exceptional customer experiences to accelerate real business value. Using the power of technology, human ingenuity, and AI and machine learning to resolve customer issues faster and better than ever. Leveraging data insights to proactively investigate meters for theft or other impropriety. Find out how to scale the impact of AI. The art of the possible, powered by Accenture, AWS, and Salesforce.
Now, Salesforce has a design model with the Jenny and Einstein to create something called the single source of truth.
What if we could bring all of your customer data together into a single source of truth? Not just the data stored in a Salesforce database, but the data in all 976 of those different applications. And what if your single source of truth was truly real time? It could stream data in, respond in the moment. And what if we coupled those technologies with artificial intelligence and automation so we could turn that real-time data into true customer magic? Well, oh my gosh, what's that? I am so excited with what our engineering team has put together. I think this might be the most significant shift to the Salesforce platform since Parker was on stage over 20 years ago. I'm so excited to introduce today Salesforce Genie.
Now, the National Endowment for Democracy is fair up in this space as well. The setting democratic ground rules for AI, and they discuss what the Americans want. So Ryan Heath, who discusses things on this panel, he just happens to have also written the Davos Playbook. This now brings us to the Disrupt and Deterrence conference that they just had and the links to everything that I've just shown you. This conference here, sponsored by Thales, Oh, partners. Oh, looky. Looky. And then some of our favorites. Oh, yeah. And just like RAGCOM's 2022, I now have to follow up on the transparency and accountability of that particular conference because they just don't want to show us what they're actually talking about. Now, I have found some ASPI conversations on this space.
And so America's Frontier Fund shares mitochondrial DNA with In-Q-Tel, which is the intelligence community's venture capital arm. Gilman Louie, who is the CEO of In-Q-Tel, is also our CEO of America's Frontier Fund. And Gilman and I have known each other for the better part of a decade. He's been a great and tremendous mentor. He's one of the greatest Americans that most people don't know exists, but he's done a lot of things behind the scenes to, make sure that we are beyond parity of our near-peer competitors. And so one of the things that he and Eric Schmidt and others identified when they were on the National Security Commission for Artificial Intelligence was that there was a lack of investment going into deep tech or hardware-intensive technologies. And so we at AFF are looking to go ahead and raise up to $500 million to deploy into frontier technologies that can go ahead and, again, keep the U.S. economically competitive. And if it actually gets into national security, beyond parity of, again, of those peer competitors or near peer competitors.
So Gilman Louie, the guy that nobody knows about, for example, from 99 to 06, he was the first CEO of In-Q-Tel, an independent not-profit venture capital firm established with the backing of the CIA. It also links to Eric Schmidt. Now, this guy was the former Google head and had assembled a fund with Washington insiders to help direct US national security investments. Blandly named the American Frontier Fund, which was just mentioned before. Now, Jaron Lanier has his own opinions on what is happening within Silicon Valley.
What we're doing is we're splitting society apart into elites who are closer to the big computers and then a service class of people who are further from them, and that gap is widening.
The World Economic Forum Summit for AI Governance will be held from the 14th and 15th of November.
Unfortunately, that kind of technology, which is tech business, what we call tech, and the big tech companies and all the tech entrepreneurs and the rich people who get rich on tech and all that, we're not all bad. Some of us are great, but there's a real temptation to a kind of a corruption, because if you can get in between other people, that's a very direct form of power. It's an even more direct form of power than money.
There's a lot happening in this space right now with academics and governments getting together to figure out how this space is going to work.
There's this incredible game going on of who gets control of the connections between people.
So who is Jaron Lanier? I have brought him up a few times in the last 3 years.
Have an unusual role. I'm called the Prime Unifying Scientist at Microsoft.
Links will be in the Telegram. Now I'm going to show you what they have been working on in this particular space and why the AI language is being built. And I've been talking about the proof of provenance and the issues between the different platforms. That's why I advocate for the 29th of every month that we do disengagement strategies, so that they get the message that you actually understand what's happening. Have a look at what Jaron has created and what is on the horizon when it comes to technology.
One of our great discoveries with avatars is called homuncular flexibility, which means that your brain still knows how to live inside different animal bodies that you descended from, so you can turn into all kinds of creatures. I can give somebody a virtual tail and they can learn to use the tail with great accuracy almost immediately, because the brain still remembers having a tail. But we've also turned people into fantastic creatures, and it's something you can learn. And it's my belief that this kind of ability in the brain is where the future of expression will come from. I think we're headed into a new level of expression that's beyond language as we know it, in which we morph into everything that could happen in reality ourselves, where we just turn into things. What we're doing is.
Now, Julie Grant was placed here by the Americans a few years ago. She's our e-safety commissioner. And her previous roles, she used to work for Microsoft and Twitter. She's also seen as one of the Agile 50. And this means that she is part of a selection of people for the World Economic Forum's Global Future Council on Agile Governance. But not only does she sit on this particular council, from the 19th of November, Australia and the US now have this joint council. Now it's under the guise of online child exploitation, but it certainly has undertones that go back through everything that I've just shown you. So Julie Ingham Grant, that American who worked for Microsoft, is quite happy to put herself in a position under the guise of child abuse with other trajectories on the table. Now, the ACCC is firmly in that space as well. I think we've all met Gina. And just to refresh people's memories, Gina used to work for Murdoch family in the trust that manages the family's multi-billion-dollar stake in media company Fox and News Corp. Now, the current legislation that Julie Grant has put forward, so the basic online safety expectations, when you go through and read it, as you can expect, it does align with the WEF trajectories, and it does appear to favour her Microsoft friendships. There is currently in train an independent intelligence review where they want to update very specific areas. The Attorney General is certainly doing his part with wanting to update the secrecy offences, because these guys certainly don't want us Australians knowing what is happening on these new councils headed up by these American affiliates. This was just a brief introduction to the digital transformation space here in Australia. Head over to Gaddy.online to read the latest updates for November. I will do some more YouTubes in long form on the CBDC space as well. You can also follow me on Facebook, Gaddy for Tassie, and TikTok.